Hi, my name is Steve. My amateur radio call sign is K2GOG, and I am one of the co-founders of Hudson Valley Digital Network, and our website's at www.hvdn.org. So we've been around for a few years, and back in 2020, we were having a chat at Field Day, and somebody asked me, hey, do we have the ability to track participation and contacts and all that great stuff? And I thought, sure, we submit logs to the ARRL, and they keep track of that. And so on the HVDN blog, started a series of trackers, and this is the day before the 2023 ARRL Field Day, but I'll go back in time here to where this started in 2020. So let me go to the blog and type in Field Day. And so here's where it all started. June 2nd of 2020 was the first iteration of our tracking of field day data. And there's a nice database that the ARRL maintains. And so they list each year individually. So I took 10 years worth of data and combined it. And I'll show you what that looks like. But something that was pretty pivotal is after 2015, they started to ask for some additional information, such as transmitters and power sources and types of contacts made during field day. And so the data in the larger database that I'll show has more information for the past few years compared to in years prior. So you can go and take a look at this article as an example. Here we're just looking at 10 years from 2010 to 2019, total number of contacts or QSOs made during the event, and we can see how that's kind of been up and down over the years. And then one of the things that I've created was a split out voice versus non-voice contacts. And so when I say non-voice, that means looking at Morse code and digital as a combination and splitting them out separately. So you could easily understand how this data is compiled. And again, this is all from the ARRL's website. All I did was put it in a analytical format. So we'll just kind of keep scrolling through here. Here's an early look at 2010 to 2019 total participants. Now, mind you, this is all before COVID. So this is a trend that's been going down, and this is for the entire event. This isn't just one part of the world. This is the entire event. So we can see that total participation has been down from a peak of about 42,000, and in 2018 it got a little lower. And so, that's kind of concerning just a little bit. And I did some other analysis where I took the data, I added up everything, and I broke them down by call areas, which the ARRL does not track, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. And so you kind of get the feel for. I did some massive data analysis here, breaking things down. You can drill down to the level if you want to go to your local ARRL section or division. You can do that. Here's where I am. I'm in the ENY section, and then our neighbors to the south are New York City and Long Island. And so we could look and see how participation over 2010 to 19 has trended. And here's if we wanted to look at specific clubs, any call signs. You could also look at historical trends. So again, all the data that the ARRL has, you could even break it down by different classification. So again, 2010 to 19, it took only 5, so 1 deltas, which were home, 2 and 3 alpha, which are club stations, 4 alpha club stations, and then 1 echo were those on emergency power. So we can see that across all the different categories over the years, all 107 other categories equaled out to 45%, with these 5 equaling out to 55%. And so that's a fun set of data to look at. So that's kind of the deal here. Again, you could go and skim this. So that was June, and then we got to December 5th of 2020 when the 2020 data came out. And so this was the first after COVID field day. And so there were some discrepancies within the data, but nothing really too out of the ordinary. But I thought that was just a little strange. The ARRL, what they published versus what was in the articles, that didn't exactly line up. But again, not really that far off. But again, everyone should interpret data the same way. Here is a chart that I created just looking at the percentage mix of total transmitters. And so this was the 10 years before and the year after the first year of COVID. And we can see that a huge increase of those that operated field day were at home. So it went from a total of 16% over a 10-year span to almost 60% in the first year of where COVID interacted with us. And then we also saw people operating at home on emergency power also increased from 10% to 18%, which was really great. And you'll certainly notice that club stations, the 2A, 3A, and 4A, those almost all disappeared. Most clubs went to much smaller footprints or just a few people operating. So that was a huge change due to COVID. So again, you can go and take a look at this. Here's a chart of total conversations or QSOs. So in 2020, huge increase because there were more people operating on the air, but the total participation dropped tremendously. And again, participation is, all the people that come and visit a field day site that put their name on the participation log. So there were the people who were really operating who were what's counted versus just the people that just came by and socialized. So again, not a big deal here, but that's pretty significant. Look at the total number of contacts. And I remember that year, it was very busy on the airwaves with people operating from home. So that was pretty interesting. So again, we'll dig into this in a little bit. And these are photos from one of the clubs that I'm a member of. You can see that we were operating outside. You can see a couple of members with face masks, and we cordoned off the area to make sure that nobody was, out of our control. So we did a really good job of keeping things pretty safe. And again, you can go and take a look at all of this. So then in January of 2022, I did an article looking at the C class, which are mobile, which I think is a section of class that has not really seen a lot of use. And I was thinking that during COVID, we'd see an increase of that. And I was right. So if we looked at compound annual growth over different periods, we can see with this nice little colorful chart that I created, we can see that the mobile class C has increased. So that's been pretty exciting to see. And then one concept that I thought about was maybe if people want to be safe during COVID, people who just sit in their car and connect to one antenna and use like a quadplexer and bandpass filters, and everyone could be, safe in their vehicles if they wanted to do that. So should be interesting to see in 2023 if C class continues to increase. And again, we'll skip over all this stuff. And again, you could read this, but here we are. June 22nd is when I wrote this. Today is actually the 23rd, so field day is tomorrow. And so I wanted to do some further analysis from the 2022 set. And so here we are, a little bit more visual. So here's field day average site participants. And so we can see over the past from 2010 to 19, we can see total participants. We can see how that dropped off in 2020, but we've been slowly increasing. And so on average from 10 to 19, there was an average of 13.5 people, whereas from 2020 to 2022, that dropped to 4.1. So I think 2023, we're going to see a huge rebound, though the weather is not looking too great for parts of the country. So that might be a little strange. But here we have where I am in the Hudson Division in New York metro area. So we actually trend a little higher than the national average, which is actually really great. So here we're at 14.9 average site participants over 10 years prior to COVID. And that was 13.5 on the national average. So we're one more than the national average. And then even since COVID, we're at 4.26 people compared to 4.1. So that's still pretty good. we're trending higher than the national average, which is actually really great. And then if we want to take a look at, as an example, and you could do all of this with my data set if you want to compare and contrast different things. Here we're looking at the ENY, NLI, and NNJ sections within the Hudson Division. And again, just looking at participation. And so we can see how this is charted out historically from 2010 through 2022 data. And we can see where certain sections have, had their ups and downs and who's decreased and everything and where they've rebounded. And so there's lots of great ways that you could look at this data. And so hopefully this year, we're going to see a huge increase of what's been going on within Field Day. But let me take you through, where do you go and get this data? So let's see. So if you wanted to go visit the ARRL website, you can go and grab that directly from them. So we'll just type in ARRL Field Day Data. And sometimes it's hidden. I don't know why, but there we go. So here we have their database download. So if you wanted to grab this, you can, but I've made it a lot easier. But here's where they have all the raw data at arrl.org/database-downloads. So that's that. Now let's look at what I've created, and you have the link in the articles to grab this if you want. So let me just walk you through this quickly. So what I did is I took all the raw data, I put it into an Excel file, and I added a few things. So we have a year column, call sign, what I'm calling QST class. So this is the classification of station as reported in QST magazine and in the database. So 1 Delta home, 1 Alpha is a club, 1 station, etc. So all the different things that are recorded. But then I broke it down a little bit further. So I did what's called root class and master root class. So let's use this one, VE6EX, as an example. So it's a 1 Alpha, it's an Alpha class, and then it's an Alpha class. So that's how we are looking at that. Now, if we look at this one right underneath here, so this was a 4 Alpha Charlie, or here is VE6KC is a 1 Bravo 2, which I don't understand how that makes sense, but whatever. So let's find a better example. So yeah, let's look at a 3 Alpha Charlie. So KJ4SWD is a 3 Alpha Charlie. It's an Alpha Charlie. So this way, if I wanted to go and compare and look at every participant that was an 8 Alpha Charlie station, we could look at that. Or if we wanted to just look at it as an Alpha. So that's why I broke it out that way, to make it a little bit easier to cross tab. And then, of course, we have the ARRL section. And then what I also added, which again is not available through the ARRL, is I took all of the participants and I broke them down by their call area. So, 0 through 9. And so in some cases, if you want to look at number 2 or number 1, but since they overlap sections, I thought that would be an interesting way to do that. So added that. So those are the things that I did, is root class, master root class, and call area. Those were things that took a little doing to add. And then let me filter it here quickly when they started to do more data. So let's just look at 2017. So here we can see the ARRL started to ask us and input number of transmitters, power source, and then number of contacts. And so they asked for tracking of Morse code, digital, and voice. But then what I did is I also added non-voice. So non-voice is a combination of digital plus Morse code. So this way it gives us a good voice versus non-voice, and then total number of conversations. And so that's all in the raw data. So I also created 3 nice little dashboards, which I'll just walk through quickly. So here we have the class tracker. So if you go up here to the top, you can filter things out. So here, everything. So here's the total number of top classes and the total participation. over the 2010 to 2022 time frame. If we wanted to filter that down further, so let's say if we want to go and look at ENY, there we go. So that'll automatically recalculate all of the data. We can see how many total classes, Alpha, Alpha, Bravo, Alpha, Charlie, Bravo, 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 etc. We can see all the data of the total number of classes. So these are the total participants broken down by class is all we're looking at. So just the total number of different classes that we can see. And so as an example, here in ENY, we can see the huge spike of the increase of the Delta stations in 2020. And then in 2021, that dropped almost by half. And then last year, it got down to even less than half. And then we saw same thing, huge increase in emergency power. And then that dropped. And we can see Alpha has been pretty stable, and it made a rebound pretty much on par. So 2022, we had 18 in ENY, and its previous peak was 2016, we had 17. So we're actually trending higher, and this year we're going to probably have even more than that, which is really fun. And so again, you could go and filter this however you want. So we'll unclick that. Let's say, for example, if we want to see how in call area 2 has trended over time, same thing. We can, pretty much pivot whatever you want to look at. And lastly, if you want to look at QST class, so let's just say over time for 3 alphas, we could easily see how that has trended and things like that. So pretty easy to use. Then we have QSO tracker. So same thing, looking at total number of QSOs broken down by voice, non-voice, Morse code, and digital. And if we wanted to filter that down, we could also do that by call sign, which looks at all participants, which it's a huge data set. So if you want to compare how your club has done over the years, you can do that. So I'll do a search for, do a search for W2VL, another club that I'm a member of. So we could easily look and see how they've trended over time. So it looks like in 2014, they made a lot of contacts, and not so much the past couple of years. So if you want to see how you have compared as an individual or a club to others, you could easily do that with this database. And then same thing if you want to look at your section. So look at ENY again. So here's how the contacts in ENY have trended over the past couple of years. So here's the 2020 COVID year, and 2021 was even higher. And then last year it dropped off, which was kind of weird. But yeah, you can see how things have trended, voice versus non-voice, etc. And then lastly, here's the activity tracker. So this is looking at the total sum of participants. And so we could see 2010 to 22. We obviously saw that big drop off in 2020, and that has nicely rebounded. And then the number of transmitters and the count of total power sources. And so if you want to look at that for the entire event, or just a section or a call sign, you could filter this all out however you want. So again, here's the view for the entire event. And there you have it. So if you'd like to grab a set of this information, you can do so right on the HVDN website. And the latest article from the 23rd, or 22nd rather, have a link in here somewhere. Where is it? Here we go. So a full data set used to create the above charts is available here. So you can click this and that'll give you the ability to download that Excel file that I showed you. And look out for some follow-up information. We'll release another article after we have an idea as to how the local area has performed. And then when the ARRL makes its data available again in December of 2023, we'll do another analysis. So thanks for watching.